You know, people come and go. That's just how life works, doesn't it? We meet someone, we connect, and before we know it, our hearts get attached. But then, something changes. They drift away. Or maybe we're the ones who change. Either way, it hurts. You're left wondering, how do I carry this weight without falling apart? I've been there. And if you're here now, I want you to know, you're not alone. That's when I found Stoicism, not as a cold philosophy, but as a quiet strength. It didn't ask me to shut down my feelings. It taught me how to hold them without letting them control me. Marcus Aurelius. He wasn't just some ancient thinker. He was someone who knew heartbreak, change, loss. And he left behind 5 timeless lessons that change the way I see relationships and myself. These aren't just ideas, they're tools. And they've helped me find peace in places I never thought I would. So if you're carrying something heavy, if you're tired of holding on, let's talk. Let's walk through this together. 1. Understand the impermanence of life. You know, one of the hardest truths to accept is this: everything is temporary. Every relationship, every connection, no matter how deep, no matter how much history, can change or end. It sounds harsh, I know, but when you really sit with it, it kind of frees you. Because the pain we feel so often comes from expecting things to stay the same forever. I like to think of it like sand. You ever grab a handful at the beach? The tighter you squeeze, the quicker it slips through your fingers. That's what it's like when we try to hold on too tightly to people. They're not ours to keep. They're ours to share life with. For a time. I had a friend. Someone I'd known for over 10 years. We did everything together. Late night talks, road trips, even cried through a couple of breakups side by side. But somewhere along the way, we grew apart. There wasn't a big fight or betrayal, just distance. And for the longest time, I kept holding on to the idea of what we used to be. It felt like if I let go, I'd be losing a part of myself. But the truth, that chapter had simply run its course. And when I finally accepted that, I stopped hurting so much. I stopped blaming myself or her. Marcus Aurelius said, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. It's not meant to scare you. It's a reminder. Life, and everyone in it, is passing through. So instead of clinging, why not cherish? The moment we understand impermanence, we stop wasting time trying to freeze things in place. And we start living, really living, with presence, with gratitude, and with a little more peace." 2. Control emotions with rational thinking. Let me ask you something. Have you ever spiraled over something that didn't even happen? I have, more than I care to admit. One time I texted someone I cared about. It wasn't a big message, just something honest and kind. And then, silence. No reply. For hours. At first I was patient. Then I started thinking, did I say something wrong? Are they mad? Are they ignoring me on purpose? Before I knew it, I was knee-deep in anxiety over a story I'd created in my own head. Here's the thing I've learned. Our emotions don't come from what happens. They come from what we tell ourselves about what happens. That's something the Stoics talked about a lot. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." It took me years to fully grasp that. But once I did, man, it changed everything. I started asking better questions. What's the actual fact here? They haven't replied. That's it. Everything else, my assumptions, my fears, my insecurities. So instead of fueling those feelings, I started challenging them. I'd stop and ask, what's another way to look at this? What if it has nothing to do with me? That one shift, from reacting to reflecting, it gives you back your power. That night with the message. Turns out they were just caught up with work. They responded the next morning like nothing had happened. Meanwhile, I'd spent the whole night making up a movie in my head and playing every role. That's what our minds do when left unchecked. They dramatize, they assume, they exaggerate. But when you pause, when you examine your thoughts with honesty, you realize most of the emotional pain we feel is self-inflicted. And look, I still catch myself doing it sometimes. But now I have a tool, a way to slow down and ask, is this thought helping me or hurting me? That simple habit of mental questioning has saved me from so many unnecessary storms. So if you're ever in that space, spinning over a silence, a look, a tone, remember, you control the meaning, you control the story, and that's where peace begins. 3. Negative visualization. Practice negative visualization. Can I tell you something that changed the way I handle loss? It sounds strange at first, but I started imagining things going wrong. Not to be pessimistic, but to prepare myself, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. It's a Stoic practice called negative visualization, and honestly, it's one of the most grounding things I've ever done. The idea is simple. Instead of pretending everything will stay the same forever, you pause and imagine what life might look like without the people or things you hold dear. Not to scare yourself, but to soften the blow if or when things actually change. Because let's face it, life does change. People leave, jobs end, health shifts. Nothing is guaranteed, and pretending it is just sets us up for more pain. There's this quote from Seneca that stuck with me. He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand. It's like emotional training. You're not numbing yourself. You're rehearsing resilience. I remember when my best friend told me she might move across the country. We'd been close for years. Daily texts, weekend coffee runs, the kind of connection that feels like home. When she brought it up, I felt that panic start to creep in. But instead of denying it, I tried something different. Every day, I imagined life without her physically nearby. I pictured doing things solo. I thought about making new routines. I even visualized the quiet mornings without our usual chats. It stung, yeah, but by the time she actually moved, I wasn't in shock. I'd already made room in my heart for the goodbye. And because of that, I could let her go with love instead of fear. This practice doesn't make you cold. It makes you present. It teaches you to appreciate things while you still have them, because you know, truly know, they won't be here forever. So if you're holding someone close right now, or dreading the day they might leave, try this. Imagine that day. Let it hurt a little. Then come back to the moment and hold them even closer. Not with desperation, but with deep, calm gratitude. Because when you've already made peace with the possibility of loss, you stop clinging and start cherishing. 4. Focus on what you can control. Let me be honest with you. There was a time when I thought if I just tried hard enough, I could make someone love me the way I loved them. So I tried. I texted first, planned everything, listened when they needed it, showed up when they didn't ask. Basically did everything except ask myself, why am I working so hard to be chosen? And you know what that effort got me? Exhausted, anxious, and still not enough. That's the trap. When you try to control how someone else feels about you, when your peace depends on their mood, when your worth is tied to their attention, it's a losing game. That's when Stoicism came in, not with loud answers, but with quiet truths. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That hit me hard, because the more I thought about it, the more I saw how much energy I'd spent trying to manage things that were never mine to control in the first place. I couldn't control how someone felt. I couldn't control if they stayed or left. But I could control how I responded. I could choose what I gave my time, my love, my peace to. So I stopped performing. I stopped bending over backward, hoping it'd be enough. Instead, I started showing up for me. I began asking, am I proud of how I'm acting? Is this bringing me peace or pain? Would I want someone to love me the way I'm loving them, even if they never return it? Something shifted. Not overnight, but slowly I started feeling lighter, clearer. And here's the thing, that person didn't suddenly change. They still drifted, but I no longer chased. I let it happen, and I stayed grounded. Because I wasn't trying to control them anymore. I was controlling myself. When you stop trying to manage what's outside of you, you begin reclaiming the space inside of you, your peace, your power, your worth. So if you ever catch yourself spiraling, trying to win someone's affection, pause and ask, is this mine to control? If it's not, let it go. And in that letting go, you'll find something better than control. You'll find clarity and peace. 5. Reflect on the bigger picture. It's strange, isn't it? How something can feel like the end of the world in the moment, and then a few years later it barely even registers. I think about that sometimes. How pain has a way of shrinking when you give it space and time. There was a breakup I went through years ago. The kind that knocks the wind out of you. The kind where you can't eat, can't sleep, and every song suddenly sounds like it was written about you. I thought, this is it. This is the moment that breaks me. But guess what? It wasn't. I survived. And not just survived, I grew. Eventually, I saw that relationship for what it really was. A meaningful chapter, sure, but not the whole story. That's what the Stoics teach us. Zoom out. Take the long view. Marcus Aurelius once said, think of the whole of existence, and the eternity behind you, and the eternity in front. When you put your pain in the context of your entire life, you start to realize this too will pass, just like everything else has. Now, when something hurts, I try asking myself, will this still matter in 5 years? And honestly, most of the time, it won't. It doesn't mean the pain isn't real. It just means it's not permanent. You start to realize that most of our emotional storms come from putting too much weight on one person, one moment, one outcome. But when you step back, really back, you remember how big life actually is. How many people you've met, how many seasons you've lived through, how much more is still ahead. That breakup I mentioned, it once felt like the end. But looking back, it was just the end of a page and the beginning of a much better chapter. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, ask yourself, is this moment my whole story, or just a line in the middle of it? Because sometimes peace doesn't come from fixing the pain. It comes from realizing it's just a small part of something much, much bigger. So there we have it. 5 simple ideas, but none of them involve suppressing your emotions. They're about making peace with them. They're about not letting them dominate everything. They're about finding your way back to yourself when life seems a little too loud, too overwhelming. We've talked about impermanence. Nothing lasts forever, and maybe that's okay. We've talked about thinking clearly. Your thoughts shape your emotions more than you realize. We've explored the practice of visualizing loss, not to grieve prematurely, but to build strength in advance. We've shifted our focus to what you can control, your actions, your thoughts, your choices. And we zoom out, reminding ourselves that one painful moment is not the whole story. These Stoic ideas, they're not cold. They're not about being detached from life. They're about approaching life with a clearer heart and a stronger mind. So the next time you find yourself holding on too tight, trying to fix someone else, or getting lost in what-if thoughts, stop. Ask yourself, am I in control of my emotions, or are my emotions controlling me? Because that's where the real work begins, and that's where freedom comes in. If any of this resonates with you, leave a comment below. What signs do you notice in your relationships? A pattern, a feeling, a shift that tell you it's time to let go or hold on in a different way. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And hey, if this helps you, please like and subscribe. Not for me, but for the version of you that's ready to heal. Let's walk this path together with a little more clarity and a lot more strength together.